So I was doing some thinking about coming up with something that I wanted to do for my channel for the upcoming Cinco de Mayo celebration. And now, obviously, whenever there's any kind of celebration, my first thought is there cake? And it turns out, absolutely, there is cake. The official celebration cake across America and possibly in Mexico of Cinco de Mayo is the Tres Leches cake. Now, for most Americans, Cinco de Mayo is just a convenient excuse to go to the bar and drink frozen margaritas and Coronas, which is a perfectly acceptable reason. But I wanted to kind of dig more into it and find out, why do Americans and Mexican Americans and Mexicans celebrate Cinco de Mayo? What's it all about? So I did a little research and I found out that it's actually originally was a celebration of the battle of something called the Battle of Puebla. And on May 5th, 1862, 6,000 French soldiers commanded by an arrogant and overconfident French general, whose name I can't pronounce, invaded the small town of Puebla de Los Angeles, Mexico. They were promptly routed by a ragtag Mexican army of only 2,000 men. Reportedly, the Battle of Puebla only lasted about 12 hours. This is kind of embarrassing for the French. Now, obviously, the Mexican general, a man by the name of Ignacio Zaragoza, was highly overjoyed at his quick and expedient victory, so he immediately had his men set up a huge outdoor bakery and commanded his chefs to create a celebration cake. And this is the outcome. The famous Tres Leches cake. And this is my version. I made that last part up, though, about the outdoor bakery. Actually, Nestle is accredited for, in the 1930s, for creating the Tres Leches cake to promote their canned sweetened condensed milk. But nonetheless, it's an absolutely delicious and moist pudding-like cake. And if you've never made this before, you really have to try it. And I made a more dressed up version here in case you're having a large celebration, a bunch of people over to celebrate the Cinco de Mayo celebration. So we're going to go over to the kitchen and I'm going to show you how I made this beautiful cake and how you can do it too. So Okay, so it's time to get started on this fantastic Cinco de Mayo celebration cake. So the first thing we're going to do here is make sure that your pan is prepared. And I'm using a 9 by 13 inch baking dish for this Tres Leches cake. And what I did here is I put parchment, butter, and flour on the bottom, but not on the sides. That's just so that the sponge can rise properly in the pan. And it's non-stick anyway, so anyway, that's the pan I'm using. And the second thing is you can preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. You can get organic sweetened condensed milk out there. You might find it at Whole Foods or something like that, or you can order it online. But I say why when you can make it cheaper, and control the quality of the final product anyway. So what I have here is 2.5 quarts of organic half and half. And that's just the milk that I'm using for this. And you're going to want to put this over medium to medium low heat. So what we have here is 25 ounces of organic granulated sugar that goes in. And I also have a 1/4 teaspoon of tartaric acid solution, and all that is just cream of tartar dissolved in hot water. And the reason why I'm putting this in here is to just stop any type of crystallization that might be thinking about occurring in there. Whisk that sugar in there. I'm going to use about a tablespoon of this so that it really gets that flavor infused all through the cake. It'll be amazing. So once you get your vanilla bean in there, what you want to do is reduce this down. We'll first bring it to a boil, and then just start reducing this half and half in sugar mixture down to a consistency where it's, you don't want to thicken it too much, because then it'll have a hard time working its way into the cake, into the sponge. But just keep an eye on it. As soon as it starts to simmer, turn the heat way down so that you can work on your cake. But you're still going to have to, every once in a while, just stop and stir. Whisk a little bit, just so nothing sticks. Okay, so now that we have our sweetened condensed milk sorted out, I have it cooling on the counter. And now we're going to start putting this cake together. And this is a chiffon cake that I'm using for this Tres Leches. And as I always say, more than half the battle really is in your mise en place, or basically your preparation of scaling everything out. It's going to make your life so much easier if you just weigh everything out on a digital scale. I highly recommend, before you even get started mixing, just scale out all of your ingredients and get them ready to go. So real quick, I'm just going to explain everything that's going into this cake, and then we'll bring you over here so you can see it going together. So right off the bat, for our dry ingredients, I have 14 ounces of organic all-purpose flour, 5 ounces of organic granulated sugar. I have 4 teaspoons or a ½ ounce of non-GMO baking powder. And I have 1 teaspoon of fine sea salt. Okay, so that's our dry ingredients. Then for our wet ingredients, I have 1 cup of water. I have 8 egg yolks, free range, organic, of course, and I have 2/3 of a cup of melted out organic unrefined coconut oil. It's a great hack for cakes, and it'll give you a ton of moisture without any kind of GMO oils, which are really horrible for your health. Also, with the wet, I'm putting in 1 full tablespoon of organic vanilla extract. Now, to lighten this batter, I reserved the 8 egg whites, and these are at room temperature, so are the yolks, everything you want at room temperature. And I also have 9 ounces of the granulated sugar for the meringue, and I mixed a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar into the sugar to help stabilize the whites. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is just sift all of these dry ingredients here onto a piece of parchment paper. It's just the easiest way to transfer it. There's 14 ounces of all-purpose flour and 5 ounces of the granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, and we have 1/2 ounce or 4 teaspoonfuls of the non-GMO baking powder. We're just going to sift all that. Get started whipping up our wet ingredients here. So first in is the 8 organic egg yolks. Going to whip together the 2/3 cup of the organic unrefined coconut oil, melt it out. 1 cup of filtered water, tablespoon here of organic vanilla extract. Just want to give this a head start. So then the next thing we're going to do here is, just because I want to keep this well combined and nice and light, I'm going to sift again my dry ingredients into this in a couple of stages and whisk together. Okay, so it's time to make this meringue so we can lighten the cake batter. This is 8 organic egg whites at room temperature. As soon as you start to see it get foamy like that, you can start putting in your granulated sugar with the cream of tartar. You can do it in a couple of steps. This is 9 ounces of sugar. So you just want to whip this until you get some good stiff peaks on that. It holds a nice peak that will properly aerate your cake batter. So the best way to do this is in several different stages. I'll probably do this in 3 or 4 additions. It's a lot of egg white. So the first thing you want to do is just kind of like lighten your cake batter like that. You don't have to be too careful here. You're just trying to lighten it up. Then once you get that batter starting to lighten up, you can go ahead and start folding. Obviously the goal here is you're trying to lighten this cake batter and keep as much air into it as you can get, so you get a proper rise. So then really the only thing left to do is, so I'm going to go in here very carefully and just push this to the edge. Should go into the middle rack of your oven, and you set a timer for about 12 minutes or so and turn it around at that point and bake it for about another 12 minutes or so. Okay, so 25 minutes has passed and a chopstick here is coming out clean, so I know that the cake is completely baked. So to cool this, what you want to do is you want to put a bunch of slits in a piece of parchment paper. That's just so the steam can escape. I think the easiest way to do this is just put the pan all right on top. I'll figure this out one way or another. I know I'm smarter than this pan. Maybe. Okay, so there you go. And just keep the pan on it and let that cool completely, just like that. At least an hour, hour and a half. Alright, it's time to unmold the cake and see how we're going to finish this thing. So the first thing you want to do is just tap it slightly and pull it off the cake. It's cooled down now to room temperature. It's been probably an hour, hour and a half. And you're going to want to remove that parchment paper that you had there. Put that out of the way and put your pan back on. And now at this point, you just flip it over. You want that back in the pan because Tres Leches cake is one of those like family style cook's desserts that you are going to serve in the pan, and you know, you can just use a spatula to get it out. So once you've done that, then get that chopstick again. So just get that skewer down there. This whole thing is going to be masked with a chantilly cream anyway, so don't worry about what it looks like on the top of the cake. Just get lots of holes in there. So then after I reduced that sweetened condensed milk, I got probably a little better than a quart here, so I'm not positive I'm going to use all of this, but it'll have overnight. We're going to wrap this tightly and put it in the refrigerator and let this set completely. So you just want to kind of be slow about this and let this soak in to this. So you just want to give this cake a few minutes and let that liquid soak into that sponge. And the key is you want to put as much of that into the cake as you possibly can. And then just simply wrap this real tight and put it in the refrigerator and forget about it overnight. I know it's torture, but trust me, the way this thing tastes when it's done is just worth it. Worth the effort and the time. So we'll check this out tomorrow and see what we come up with. Okay, just like that, 24 hours later, and it has taken on an absolutely incredible, custardy, delicious, almost pudding-like consistency. Now, as you can see, it's completely saturated with that organic, homemade, sweetened condensed milk. And in my humble opinion, there's really no such thing as too much sweetened condensed milk. It's absolutely delicious in all kinds of things. So now let's talk about some classic ways to finish this Tres Leches cake. Obviously, you're going to want sweetened whipped cream. So now for this size cake, I just whipped up 3 cups of heavy whipping cream, organic obviously, and some organic powdered sugar, I think probably about a half cup or so, and a little squeeze, maybe a teaspoon of the vanilla paste that I found. And now I've seen people finish Tres Leches cake 6 ways from Sunday. There are all kinds of ways, creative and not so awesome ways that I've seen out there that people finish this cake, and it's really up to you how your personal tastes. But let's talk about some different ways. A good cocoa dusting on top of the whipped cream, absolutely. Some freshly grated cinnamon stick, sure, of course. Powdered sugar, yep, it's okay. I've made some chocolate curls here, tempered chocolate curls. That's another video, but if you're interested. Rainbow sprinkles? No jimmies. Seriously, no jimmies. Ever. So really, as far as cake decorating goes, this is one of the most simplest things you could even dream of, and you'll still get a nice, cool look to it. Very easy how I'm going to finish this cake. I'm going to put copious mounds of the sweetened whipped cream here, first of all. So then I'm just going to take an offset spatula and work that chantilly right into this Tres Leches cake. So I have one of these things here, they call it a cake comb. Get a little bit of texture on there. I think cinnamon pairs extremely well with this. There we go. And to finish this bad boy off here, we're just going to pile these beautiful chocolate curls on here. This will get some oohs and ahs that you put some effort into it. But it kind of looks cool to just pile these too. That way nobody's hurting for chocolate, you know what I'm saying? If you have 15, 20 people coming, this is what you want. Okay, so our tres leches cake is done, and all I have to say about the appearance of it is if you had a large crowd of revelers coming over for a dinner party, a Cinco de Mayo dinner party, and they asked what's for dessert, and you pulled this out, wouldn't you be proud? Looks beautiful. Let's see how this thing tastes, because as they say, the proof of the pudding, no. Now I couldn't decide a fork or a spoon, but you know, really all you need for this is a spatula. You don't, it's family style dessert. You'll have chocolate curls and whipped cream flying all over the place. So I'm just going to take this out, and whew, wow, yeah, that's got that sweetened condensed milk all over it and under it. Make sure you give everybody a couple of those chocolate swirls, curls. Wow, the texture on this thing. Amazing. It's super moist, but the chiffon holds up to all the moisture of the sweetened condensed milk. Yeah, it really is incredible. It's almost like a pudding, but it's a cake. So, and I think the cinnamon and the chocolate really do this cake justice. I know I probably have so I really hope if you're planning a celebration, maybe a backyard barbecue, weather's starting to get nice, and you want something really outstanding to bring out to your guests, give this tres leches cake a try and let me know in the comments what you think. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for joining me.